You're watching TimesXP. My name is Driti Atri, and here are the biggest stories that are making headlines across the globe today. So let's start with it. Florida plane crash on I-95. Well, a Beechcraft 55 loses both the engines mid-air near the Merritt Island, while the pilot attempts a risky highway landing, colliding with the Toyota Camry. Well, miraculously, all occupants survive with minor injuries. Miracle survival amid the chaos. Despite the plane crashing onto the highway, the pilot, co-passenger and Camry driver escaped serious harm. Emergency crew quickly responded. The entire incident freezes traffic and terrifies the witnesses as well. Illinois passes HB 1312. The state allows residents to sue the federal immigration agents for constitutional violation. Now, it prevents ICE from civil arrests near the courthouses. Be it hospitals, be it schools, every public space gain privacy protection for the immigrants. Governor Pritzker's bold statement here, signed in Chicago's Little Village, the bill defends immigrant families against the raids. In fact, he emphasizes safety at daycares, hospitals, and universities. In fact, he directly calls US President Mr. Donald Trump and other national leaders. White House criticizes Illinois law. Abigail Jackson, he claims that this particular bill defends criminal illegal aliens. DHS's Patricia McLaughlin argues that it violates the Constitution. In fact, Washington signals a looming battle over the immigration right. Illinois prepares legal showdown while the state readies for a constitutional court battle. Advocates highlight immigrant protection as a primary goal for them. In fact, the ruling could actually shape the United States federal-state immigration enforcement dynamics. Venezuela warns Latin America. Their defense minister, Vladimir Pedro Lopez, claims that the US military move are intimidation tactics. In fact, he urges the regional nations to defend the sovereignty. Here, Venezuela vows to resist any single threat towards them. United States military buildup near Venezuela. FA-18 jets and warships expand their patrol in the Caribbean. The buildup signals possible preparation for strike. In fact, the regional governments closely monitor the US actions. Here are Trump's vague threats. That's right, Trump refuses to confirm or even deny military intervention in Venezuela. He warns that Maduro's days are numbered. Now, this threat raises alarms across Caracas and Washington. Caribbean nation on the edge. Trinidad and Tobago and other nations too, they watch closely. Now, any Venezuelan instability affect migration, energy, and regional security as well. Here, economists warn of economic ripple effects. Energy risk for Trinidad and Tobago. The Dragon gas field and LNG supply depends on Venezuelan stability. Any regime change may disrupt the energy flow. In fact, the US influence and sanctions could alter regional energy partnership. Migration threats intensify. Instability in Venezuela could actually trigger refugee waves to Trinidad and Tobago. Families may flee via the dangerous sea route. Authorities prepare for possible humanitarian crisis. Security pressure rises. Crime, drug trafficking, and border conflict could escalate if Venezuela collapses. Joint US-Trinidad operation may increase. Maritime and land security are under high alert. H-1B visa delays hit Indians. Thousands of Indian applicants face sudden interview postponement to 2026. Visa schedules are delayed without any warning. Here, families and employers, they face disruption. Social media checks for H-1B applicants. The United States require all social media to be public. Posts, comments, interaction undergo scrutiny for national security here. In fact, previous F1 student vetting method now target the H-1Bs. Impact on careers and families. Job start dates and relocations are delayed. Paychecks and project timelines are stalled. Families are separated due to prolonged visa proceeding. South Korea on high alert. 9 Russian and Chinese jets approach South Korea's air defense zone. Here, Seoul scrambles fighter jets to monitor the threat. The coordinated patrols signal the rising regional tension. Russia-China military coordination here. Joint patrols demonstrate the growing military confidence. Flight tests South Korea's defensive readiness. Well, this marks a strategic shift in Indo-Pacific security dynamics. South Korea squeezed geopolitically. President Lee, he aimed for North Korea diplomacy here, but rising pressure from China, Russia and North Korea limits the diplomacy here. Regional security space shrinks rapidly. Ukraine loses Su-27 fighter jet. Lieutenant Colonel dies in a combat mission over Kharkiv. In fact, Russia claims responsibility. Ukraine investigates the loss strains Ukraine's limit air force during the ongoing conflict. Russian military brags about that. That's right. Russian channels celebrate the alleged kill. Missile system reportedly targeted the jet. Well, Ukraine remains cautious about confirming the details. Gaza ceasefire blocked. Hamas declares no second phase ceasefire until Israel withdraws completely. In fact, diplomatic progress stalls. Middle East peace efforts face a renewed crisis. Trump surprises Israel. United States reportedly approves the F-35 jets for Israel's rival, and that rival is Turkey. Now, Israel's qualitative military edge is threatened here. Regional balance shifts rapidly. Impact on Israel's air superiority here. F-35 access to rival nations challenges Israel's dominance. Strategic calculations on future conflicts, it becomes riskier. Here, Netanyahu's team demands urgent clarification. Iran, China, Saudi trilateral talks. Historic meeting follows 2023 Beijing agreement. Focus on diplomacy, trade and reducing the Gulf tension. Unified demand. Halt Israeli military action in Gaza, Lebanon and Syria. Beijing as mediator here. China plays a strategic role, acting as a calm broker here. The trilateral dialogue reshapes Middle Eastern diplomacy here and regional power dynamics slowly evolve. Trump-Iran indirect exchange. Iran allegedly sends messages through Saudi Arabia to Trump. In the meantime, the US demands halting uranium enrichment and limiting the missile program, but Tehran publicly denies all these claims, adding diplomatic tension. United States-Venezuela jet signal pressure. 2 FA-18s fly close to Venezuelan water here, and the world is watching. Well, this is seen as a routine by the US, but Caracas interprets it as provocation. International attention has been spiked. Venezuela responds. Maduro's government warns against the United States interference. National morale is high, prepared to resist. Latin America watches the standoff very closely. Global tensions rising. From Florida crashes to Middle East weapons deal, Ukraine air losses and Venezuelan brinkmanship, the whole world faces multiple flashpoints simultaneously. Diplomacy, military and economic stakes are higher than ever. And with that, that's a wrap-up of our 30 news bulletins from around the globe. The world is changing and so is geopolitics, and TimesXP is here to give you all the latest updates that matters. I am Driti Atri. See you tomorrow.